a plane may initially be on the runway. The pilot, who is the boss, is really focused on getting the aircraft off the ground. The crew, who is the staff, is preparing the passengers. And these passengers, again, are the clients or the customers for the journey. And of course, in this stage, every instruction matters, every resource counts. Now, of course, we've all been on a flight, so we can understand this particular stage of this takeoff or this startup phase and how important it is for the pilot and the crew to really be focused on the safety and getting the aircraft off the ground and really paying attention to, quote, HR or traffic control to make sure that the policies and procedures that are in place will get the aircraft to safety, or in this case, create an environment of health and wellness for the entire team that works for the organization. Now, the wellness reality of it in this stage is that wellness means energy, its adaptability, and its resilience. Now, startups in this particular stage need leaders and staff with mental clarity, stress resilience, and teamwork to handle long hours, unpredictable schedules, and rapid change. Now, with that reality comes the core wellness goal. Now, what is that wellness goal? The goal at this stage is to prevent burnout from overwork, to strengthen stress management for both leadership and staff, build mental focus, and problem-solving agility. So as we look at this stage here from the takeoff and the startup phase, we see that the organization as a whole wants to accomplish three core things. When we're looking at incorporating wellness into an organization, you want to prevent burnout, you want to strengthen stress management, you want to build mental focus and problem-solving agility. Again, going back to the conversation we had in the beginning, this isn't about work, and then we're so stressed, we have so much inflammation that we just, unfortunately cut our lives short. We want to view everything that we do with longevity in mind. And again, our work and our career plays such a pivotal role and such an important part in this wellness journey that we are on. All right, so we are in the takeoff stage. As we move through stage one, we now get to stage two, which is the climb and the early growth for an organization. Now, at this stage, the plane has left the ground. It's still climbing, and the pilot is busy managing acceleration. So the pilot or the employer is busy with the everyday going-ons within the organization. He's being the visionary. They're wanting to get more business. They're wanting to keep the business afloat. They're doing so many different things within the company just to keep the company growing at a speed that will that will help the company be maintained and accelerate. So again, if the employer is adjusting their work strategy, they're adjusting so many different employer benefits and all of the things that go into keeping a business going. They're also looking out for threats to the organization. Just like a pilot, you're watching out for turbulence. The employer is watching out for threats within the organization. They're looking out for opportunities in the organization. And their main focus is, we got to keep this organization off the ground. Just like a pilot's goal is to keep the plane, in the air. And then, of course, the staff or the crew is helping to make sure that the vision of the employer is being seen. So just like in a flight situation, the crew members are busy making sure that the customers or the, those that are on the flight, that their safety is in mind, or the happiness of the customers that we're serving is being met. So within this growing stage of an organization, it may be small initially, the company is growing, but the real wellness reality at this stage is it's important for the organization to have communication, role clarity, and morale. These are all very critical. And at this stage, what you don't want is to have this constant fight or flight or this feeling of survival mode all the time. And the question of how do we handle the workload without losing quality? And it's important when it comes to this particular phase of growth as it relates to wellness and organizational health, because it can become so stressful for an organization that most companies begin to fail in this very early stage of growth development if they aren't careful. So as you're looking at this information and you're seeing how wellness plays a role within your organization, it's going to be important to examine how to get from this survival mode, not losing quality, and continue with this flight path that your organization is on. Dr. K, did you have a thought at this point? No? Okay. All right. I saw you on screen. I wasn't sure. You're muted.
I'm not talking. Yes, I just came on. But I also want to say, as you are talking, that, you said that this is really is a very crucial point, where at this early stage, there are not maybe some few organizations are able to move from this stage to that stage of really profiting, but this can go on for quite a bit. And and then people are saying to themselves, when things get better, I will enjoy myself. When I have a little bit more money, I will take the vacation. I will go and rest. I will take time off. And honestly, this season that you are talking about, where can last for more than you can even think about. And so the need to begin to think wellness from the start, and understanding that in building an organization, you can't be too sure. You might think, oh, it's going to take me, this person, it took him 2 years, he became a millionaire. Yours might take 10 years to get to that point. So you never know how long. So if you don't have a wellness mindset from the beginning, you will find that you don't have enough steam and enough energy for the journey. You didn't put that into consideration to ensure that you are not just struggling, you are thriving even in this phase that is a difficult one. Okay.
Absolutely. And just a side point, as I was thinking through this and we're thinking about the analogy of this flight path, whenever there is a concern that, let's say, traffic control or the pilot may bring to the attention of the staff, the thought on an airline is to put the safety mask or give yourself oxygen first and then assist the others, with the survival step or the survival process. If we were to take that and apply it to wellness, that would mean that we have to take care of ourselves first in order to be able to take care of others. Now, that is individually, it trickles into the health and wellness of the entire organization. It trickles into even the health of our families and how our families now can benefit from this mindset of wellness that is that has to become a lifestyle and just a way of thinking day in and day out, as opposed to this existence that so many individuals have found themselves in, that we really have to break that cycle. That cycle has to be broken. So at this stage, what is the goal? The goal is to foster collaboration, and I'm sorry, my slide got cut off there. Foster collaboration and reduce role conflict. Is to improve work-life balance while still hitting ambitious goals. And it's to maintain leadership stamina under pressure. So can this be done? Absolutely, this can be done with the right tools and resources in place. An organization, even as they're going through this growth phase, can accomplish this as they continue to grow their organization. So just to recap, stage 2, we talked about these different phases, the analogy, the wellness reality. Again, the takeaway in this stage is those core wellness goals: fostering collaboration and reducing role conflict, improving work-life balance while still hitting ambitious goals, maintaining leadership stamina under pressure, and the ability for Arukah Wellness to assist organizations, again, whether you're a solopreneur or a micro team or a large corporation, in developing the tools and resources to help you at this stage as well. So we've started the takeoff process. We are in a flight path. We are now in a cruising altitude. We have now gotten to the point where we are in established operation. Well, what does wellness look like from this at this standpoint? Again, going back to each role and each position within the organization, from HR, keeping up with compliance, letting the employer know where they are within the flight path, the health of the organization, what needs to be done in order to keep the staff and customers healthy in this case. Now that the company is in this cruising altitude, the pilot or the boss can briefly step back from the controls, trusting that the systems that are in place, while the staff is operating with confidence, is there. So with those systems in place, the organization can weather the conditions or the market changes, even though they may shift at any moment. And this is a important growth stage, but at the same time, thinking about how wellness fits into this and how wellness actually helps an organization cruise control through this particular phase as well.
And I say something also add to that, Dr. Shona?
Sure.
I'm going back again to the phase 2, and most organizations think that creating a wellness model starts from this point where, I'm now in cruise control, we are making money, we are comfortable. But remember what you said, what keeps you in cruise control, what keeps you well at this point is the structures that you have put in place. And so when you don't have any wellness structure in place, then when you get to this stage, you are just going to find that it's going to just be as business as usual. You are still not going to have, because there's no structure that is going to help maintain this cruise control. But then if we have started those structures, and we're going to look at how you can do that, what those structures look like. If you started those structures early enough, beginning to think about it and implementing some of that in tiny little steps, then when you get to this point, the systems, you are not struggling. This part of your flight becomes more enjoyable because there's already a system that allows it to be enjoyable. I'll give an example about myself when I was doing in my PhD program. it looked crazy to even find time to have any time to myself at that time. I was in a PhD program. I was running projects across in Nigeria. I was in the US and I was heading projects and it was difficult. And it's easy to say to yourself, I'm sure it's going to get easier when I'm done with this program. And then that is not there anymore. But I discovered that um, even when I was done, because I didn't put certain wellness practices in place, it was just business as usual. I found myself still in this craziness. And I had to say to myself, it doesn't matter where you are. If you don't put the structure in place, even when you are extremely inundated, you are never going to have this wellness mindset. So I'm reiterating, especially for organizations that might be just 5 people, 10 people, that it is never too early to put in wellness structures. And don't worry, we will talk a bit more about what those wellness structures will look like. It's never too early. Thank you, Letitia, for saying very true, to begin to put those structures in place, because that is what is going to help you cruise along and get the benefit of cruising along. Okay, then. Thank you, Dr. Shona.
You're very welcome. And yeah, and thanks for sharing that too, because those are very, very important points as we consider this wellness journey that organizations of every phase will find themselves in. All right, so at this particular phase, what are the core wellness goals? Well, again, it's the ongoing mental and physical health maintenance for leadership and staff. It's advanced leadership coaching to prevent decision fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's programs for employee development, motivation, and innovation. So let's talk about this a little bit more when we're looking at these core wellness goals and what this could mean, for an organization when we think about how does a company position itself for ultimate success. There is an acronym in organizational structure that's called a SWOT analysis, and that stands for strengths, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And in that SWOT analysis, there is a place where the employees' development, the motivation, and the innovation comes with examining the SWOT analysis for each organization and looking at the health of the organization and how to be able to take those strengths and those opportunities, looking at the employees' development, motivation, and innovation, and seeing how the company can grow. This is where HR and the employer really work together to put these policies in place for this type of development to be able to position the company for a trajectory that's going to lead to continued growth and continued success. And it's not something for an organization to take lightly, because the minute you find yourself not doing this type of examination and you're finding that your staff is overworked, extremely stressed, they aren't getting the wellness nourishment that they need, then that's when you start having the employee turnover ratio. You start having the challenges with staff. You start having the interpersonal relationship decline within your staff, team members. Emotional intelligence declines within your team. You start to have an organization crumble breakdown when these fundamental things aren't considered. So to really dig deeply into what this means is pivotal, again, as we're examining the role of wellness in an organization and how HR, employers, and employees all play a role in achieving this. So again, to just recap this cruising altitude, your sustained performance, retaining talent. We talked about that just a little bit, having that interpersonal decline and employee turnover you want to retain. This also prevents complacency. Those core goals again, ongoing health maintenance, advanced leadership coaching, and employee development programs. Having those things in place, looking at it from a SWOT analysis standpoint, is going to help the organization to really stay on that cruise altitude, on that very healthy flight path, and really get to the successful destination that the organization is wanting to achieve. All right, so we've gotten to this place of this cruise control. We're now preparing for descent into this transition, and we're really at this place where we are preparing for change. So what does that mean for an organization? Well, let's look at it from an analogy standpoint. The analogy is the plane or the organization is preparing to land, whether it's a new project, restructuring, or expansion into a different market. The pilot or the employer must guide the plane carefully, and the crew must keep passengers comfortable during the change. Again, employer, employee, and the customers that you're serving. What is the reality? The reality of this particular phase of an organization's flight path is this change can create stress, it can create uncertainty, it can create resistance. And without the proper wellness structures, productivity can dip and team morale can suffer. And I'm sure some on this call may have seen that. You have seen the visionary or the pilot decide, we're going to take another flight path. And it's okay. I mean, they're the visionary. They see a bigger picture in what will help get the organization to a different destination financially, perhaps. But there's some resistance because all the team sees, all the staff sees is extra workload, extra stress, less time for family, less time for personal self, all of the things that come with the already taxed experience that they feel, which is going to cut into productivity and which is going to make morale suffer. And again, internal stress that comes with it within an organization, which is what you want to prevent. However, the goal with an organization should be that with this change means change management counseling and resilience training, again, wellness, emotional support for staff, adapting to new roles. Sometimes it means having the right person in the right seat, right passenger in the right seat. When you think about an airline, and you all recall the individuals that are sitting next to the exit, what does the flight attendant always do? They ask them the question, do you realize the importance of why you're sitting in this seat? Are you able to assist other passengers with getting off the plane safely? Making sure that the right employee is in the right seat is important. So the ability to adapt to new roles. How does wellness fit into that picture in adapting to new roles? It's all part of having a wellness program incorporated into your organizational structure to assist with those kind of transitions. And again, leadership focus on clear communication and vision alignment. We kind of touched on that in a few slides earlier. The visionary, vision alignment, understanding the right person being in the right seat, the change, the mental changes that individuals go through, the support that they need as they transition through the change. How is the organization helping mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and how all of those things impact the overall wellness of an organization?
Can I just chip in something here?
Sure.
And I think this can be a very stressful period. Thinking about the flight analogy, I remember when I was in a flight, I think I was going from Texas back to Atlanta. And because something was going on, we were in the air for almost 3 hours because we couldn't land. But you can imagine if there was no communication, you can imagine if there was no conversation. And I remember another situation where we were on ground, we're in the plane, and we were on ground for hours, and nobody was telling us anything. Nothing was being communicated to us. We were frustrated. Everybody was angry because I'm like, so what's going on? Let's understand, what's going on. And it was after quizzing for a while that we learned that, okay, there was a problem with the flight and they were trying to get another plane and that plane wasn't arriving. And so, from what you are saying, yes, change it's inevitable. As organizations, as leaders, we might decide that we want to take another path. We might decide that, we want to add on other ideas. But what makes this process less stressful from what you are saying is that clear communication is carrying people along, is if there's a change in the vision, communicating that change in the vision, always having that meeting, if it's every Monday morning, every Tuesday, or whatever meeting where you communicate, and that's part of the wellness, for the whole organization, so that even in the process of that change, there's clear, there's a buy-in. And like you said, also there might be need to restructure and change positionings, take people away from certain seats because of wellness. To, some people that are more resilient might have to be put in certain seats. And then you talk about even resilience training and change management counseling, bringing in professionals to help you with the process, bringing in people that, that's part of what Arukah does anyway, bringing people that, can help your staff, listen to them and help alleviate their fears and offer them, allow them see what's going on and the various options they have. All those are things that can be put in place when you're in this phase.
Yes, absolutely. And great thoughts that you shared as well. So really looking at it from a holistic standpoint and seeing holistically the importance of this type of mindset as it relates to organizational structure, organizational health, employee health as well. And shifting away from the mindset of, I have a company, the company has this as a service, whether it's myself as an individual or I have a team of 200, I work and I get a result. I work and I get a result. There's a whole lot that happens in between there that can either mean the success of the individual in the organization or the demise of the individual in the organization. And that's why it's so important to make sure that from a holistic standpoint, wellness is incorporated and intertwined into this because of how it impacts each individual, each family, and of course, once again, the overall health of the organization. All right, so just to recap stage 4, the descent and transition, preparing for change, those core goals, once again, change management counseling, emotional support for staff, clear communication, and vision alignment. All right, so wellness for the employer, sustaining the leader behind the business. Well, what does that mean? Well, preventing leadership burnout. As you can see here, business owners and executives face high stress, which can affect decision-making, innovation, and company culture. Cognitive clarity and energy management. Introducing tools like brain mapping for peak performance to improve focus. decision-making speed and productivity, work-life integrations for founders. Small business owners often blur the line between personal and professional life. Wellness policies should support them too. Long-term leadership health. The cost of medical leave or burnout for an owner is often far greater than the cost of preventive care. Practical support, leadership coaching, stress management groups, biofeedback, short pulse check, and health consults. Now, just briefly, when it comes to this particular overview of wellness for the employer, sustaining the leader behind the business, which also trickles down to sustaining the employer, the employees that also help support the business, is the other side of how this benefits the organization, which is in many cases the savings on the insurance side of things when a company has wellness policies in place, and the savings that benefits the company because of this when it comes to vetting different insurance suppliers for the company as well. So that's just an extra bonus when we're talking about this wellness support for organizations.
Can I say something
So
there,
breaking
Dr.
that,
Shana, before you leave that slide?
yeah, sure.
We are looking at, so what we've done is to divide wellness for employers and employees, because a lot of the times the policy focuses on the employees because it's like the owner is making policies. But for HR, I think in order to get the best out, what we are saying is that the wellness must also include policies for the employers. You know, because if the employer is okay, is rested, is happy, definitely everybody else is going to be happy. And many times, you know, the employers do not plan wellness for themselves, especially when the company is small, and they are struggling. And so part of it might be to say, do you know what, boss, as a policy, you must leave this office. You know, it has to be written into the policy. If, you know, you can't be doing 10 p.m. every day for the next 3 months, you know. As a policy, you know, we are going to stop that after we see it this number of times. As a policy, once a month, you know, and the employer, you know, has to go for blah, 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 you know, what you call it, a spa, you know, I'm just throwing that in. But, you know, when you put in policies that also looks in at the employer, and as an HR manager or HR executive, the manager, the owner, the employer feels supported also, because we are all human beings. Feels that, well, you know, I'm cared for, my well-being is cared for. And so that is very important as we are talking about preventing leadership burnout. And, you know, even putting in things, giftings, you know, gifts, things that can help the employer to be more mindful, you know, calling attention to that, because if it's well with you mentally and emotionally, then it will be well with the organization. If the employer is not, you know, resting or taking time out, it will be difficult. And I'm speaking, you know, I'm speaking to myself as I'm saying this also. So this is, and I'm sure my staff on the platform are going, yes, yes, yes. Okay.
All right. Yes, that's again, very important points as well. It just making sure that these things are part of policy. We're going to touch a little bit on that a little further down in the slide as well, of how important that is too. All right, so we started talking about wellness for the employee and creating this thriving workforce. What does that look like? Well, reducing sick days and turnover. And healthier employees mean fewer disruptions. Healthier employees also, again, it could mean lower insurance premiums for the organization that carry insurance policies. Boosting engagement and productivity. using brain mapping to tailor work strategies to employee strengths, mental health integration, psychoeducational seminars, and cost-effective options for startups, leveraging group sessions and intern-led seminars to make wellness affordable. Again, focusing on creating a thriving workforce is why wellness is important, not only for the employer, but again, for the employee as well. So in a nutshell, that means making wellness a part of company policy. As you mentioned earlier, Dr. K, making sure that this is part of the employee handbook. It needs to be in writing. Making sure that the organization is embedding wellness in employee handbooks and leadership development plans is important. Making sure that it's part of that SWOT analysis is a strength of the organization. Setting aside monthly wellness touch points, these pulse check sessions, workshops, or wellness check-ins. What is one of the first things that your doctor checks when you go for a physical? They check your pulse. They want to know how healthy your pulse is. It's no different for an organization. You want to know and make sure that your organization is healthy. And that is for the employer, their employee, and that even affects your customers as well. Linking wellness metrics to business KPIs, that leads to retention, productivity, reduced absenteeism. And this is extremely important. I work often on the chief operating side of things and understanding the importance of these business KPIs and how the wellness aspect of it rolls into this productivity piece, again, is important. A healthy organization, you almost can't speak enough of how important it is. So we're going to sound like a broken record almost, really stressing the importance of why this is essential to your company's health and overall well-being. And then creating partnerships with wellness providers like Arukah to deliver ongoing programs without overwhelming internal resources. And why is that important? It's because as the employer, you don't have to have all the answers and solutions. You can partner with a professional organization that has those solutions available to you, that has the resources available to you, that you can use in order to provide this type of solution for your company and be that resource that your staff needs in order to create this environment or this culture of health and wellness that, again, is going to really help the company thrive.
Can I add something again, Dr. Shona?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. I was just reading something somebody wrote, Voda, saying many organizations in Nigeria don't even have any wellness, especially health policies planned for the employer. I love that. So, I mean, yeah, she's feeling me, that we don't. They only visit the hospital whenever they are sick, and not for the employees either. Most employees are at the risk of whatever happens to them. And so this balance we are really talking about, it's a balance for both employer and employees. And also, thank you for saying that, Rhoda. And it's because, as a culture generally, not just in Nigeria, but even in the US, is we have a sick care culture. What is a sick care culture? A sick care culture is you only check yourself when something is not right with you, when you are sick. We don't have a preventative health culture. A sick care culture is very expensive. Healthcare is very expensive. And so even our insurance, the insurance that we are looking at nowadays is also based on that sick care culture. But then the wellness culture looks more at a preventative culture, that we need to have more of a preventative mindset where we put in place things right, before it breaks down. Growing up, for instance, when I was much, much younger, when I was maybe a child, we used to operate more of a preventative culture as a society, where every Sunday, your grandmother will give you one bitter things to drink because you have been eating sugar all week long. They don't wait until you have you have malaria or you are sick. They prevent, they give you this ugly, this not so nice thing to drink in order to prevent you from falling sick. And so it's the same analogy we look at here, in which our wellness culture, starting from us as individuals, is because it's what we have as individuals we bring into our organizations. It should be more of a preventative culture. How do I live life preventing sickness rather than being reactive? I have to be proactive. And that's what we are talking about. And we are going to get into some of those. We are already getting into some of those proactive steps.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, very, very wonderful points. All right. So next steps. As Dr. K was mentioning, those proactive steps, what are those? We're going to look at some call to action and next steps and some programs for your organization. So services Arukah can provide for employers and employees, brain mapping and peak performance and productivity. This is helping leaders and teams operate at their cognitive best. Well Health VIP memberships. This is a wearable integration, telehealth access. These monthly pulse checks, supplement and prescription reviews, and personalized care plans. Short and long-term counseling groups, leadership burnout prevention, emotional detox, trauma recovery, ADHD skills, marriage enrichment, etc. Psychoeducational seminars, neurodevelopmental understanding, parenting workshops, addiction recovery, work-life balance, and crisis coping, as well as custom corporate wellness packages tailored for both employer and employee needs, scalable for startups and large organizations. All right, so of course, investing in well-being of your leadership and your team, because a healthy company starts with healthy people. We've pretty much talked about that throughout the entire time as a theme throughout this entire presentation. And being able to book a comprehensive wellness assessment today that will include a full health appraisal, supplement and prescription review, looking at your potential lab needs, a personalized care plan. Employers can schedule leadership-specific pulse checks, group sessions, or company-wide seminars. And of course, contacting Arukah International Center to design a wellness policy that protects you and your business and your staff.
Dr. Shona, can we go back to
Sure.
2 slides behind?
Yes, we sure can. This one?
Good, good. And so I think this is a summary of, what is needed in, in building a wellness-centered program. One, we've talked about, and this is just a summary of what we've talked about, and is also a summary of some of the services that Arukah provides. And we've talked about change when you are, having your staff, having opportunity for your staff to have counseling. The first time I was called upon to do that was quite interesting. And it was an MD said, my staff, she's usually a good staff, but I've noticed that she had something happen. She lost her pregnancy and she's really not been doing well. And we are going to pay for her to go for counseling because she needs it. And I was invited at that time. That was a long while back to consult for them. But that was very touching, and that at that time, and I'm talking about over 15 or 18 years ago, and this was in Nigeria, and you can imagine what that did for the staff morale, to have an opportunity. And so I'm asking, how many of our organizations have partnership with organizations that can provide counseling for their staff when they notice that something is not going well with them? Number two, do we have our supervisors and our managers, our HR managers and supervisors, well trained to be able to assess that something is going on? How many of them are trained in mental health first aid, psychological first aid, to know, to be able, she talked about, testing the pulse of something is going on and noticing that, well, this person is not usually like this, something might be going on. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have some training, some background in what mental health looks like, what depression looks like, what anxiety disorder looks like, what does it look like to be experiencing domestic violence, what is trauma. Because the reality is that everybody brings to the office what they are going through at home. Nobody drops it. That's not the reality. Even though we say that drop things at home and when you are coming, come to work. But the reality is that we show up with the burdens that we are carrying. And so having partnership with organizations that you can refer your staff to one, but also providing training for your line managers on mental health, on what it looks like, how the signs and symptoms, when to seek for help, when to refer people for help is very important. Managers, supervisors, people heading different units, heading at least 4, 5, 6 people should be trained in people's management, in emotional intelligence, in understanding what people are going through. And so that psychoeducational seminars is so important, and not just for your line managers, but we're also talking about even staff. There are some things, because especially in Nigeria, US it can be a bit different, but with the traffic and with everything going on, you have a lot of people not having time to attend seminars and trainings and workshops. And most of the workshops that we end up, sending staff to are those that are related to work, to help them learn how to use one tool or the other. But everyone needs to learn to live. Nobody is born with all the knowledge of being a good husband or of being a good father, of showing up, being a good friend and all of that. And so if some of those kind of workshops, are included as part of the wellness package, are included in seminars that we run during our trainings, will also be very effective. And the people will feel that they are, we feel empowered. And so these are some of the things that Arukah also can help you with. I'm sure not only Arukah does that, but I mean, we are having this seminar to also let you see some of the things that we can help you with. Now, we looked at brain mapping and peak performance. There are some managers, some employers, you are burnt out. You are tired. You barely are able to get yourself out of bed, but you want to push on. You want to go on. Those are the drop down and die situations, and you don't want to get there. You need to also care for yourself. And so some of our services that we offer is this brain mapping. And not just that, Dr. Shona has this complete wellness, package, where, you can check what is going on with you. That headache that is constantly there, that you keep using Panadol for, or you use an analgesic for, might be the sign of something more sinister going on inside your body. You don't want to say, I will take care of that later. I will take care of that later. And you use analgesic to shut it down. Those are some of the drop down and die situations that we see. And so you want to not just do what we call go for the regular blood work test, but there are some things, even talking to someone, counseling, really being able to pour out your heart and how you are feeling and the struggles and the challenges you are having can help you, even if the person do not have an answer to give you, just having that conversation. I've had people sit with me, and by the time they are done, they say, gosh, I feel so much better. Because many times you have the answer, but because there's so much stress going on, you are not able to tap into that answer. And so we have services like, Dr. Shona have, yes, on the slide, brain mapping, that helps, especially if you are beginning to have low memory, you are struggling with remembering things, focus, you are becoming challenged, your mood, you are just not having pleasures in doing anything. Life is just going on, and you just want, you are hoping for a change, but you don't know how to make that change. Well, we have brain mapping services and brain training services that are there to help. And so I wanted to open up. I know Dr. Shona has done a good job of trying to talk about those services, but I just wanted to open up more for you to understand that life is not about waiting until you are sick to get help. Life is about learning more about yourself, your body, your signals. And right when you begin to sense something, even before you sense something, going out there to find help. One of our services is also the bioenergetic testing services. Bioenergetic testing uses the principle of physics, energetic physics, to help check for things that 5 years down the line might happen to you, things that the usual lab will not pick out, things that, blood work is not going to show you. Cells that are already not feeling well, but they are not diseased enough for them to show up in a scan or show up in a CT scan or MRI scan. Bioenergetic testing figures this out. And all these are services that when you register for a wellness package with Dr. Shona, all these are services that you can have access to. Okay.
Wonderful. All right. So yes, the brain mapping and the bioenergetics. I also wanted to show you another lab that is often discussed when we talk about wellness is I'm not quite sure how to get that little scribble off the screen. I don't know how it showed up. I think there was some annotation done, but perhaps we could just ignore it. But the IgG food sensitivity lab test is another service that we offer at Arukah. And the IgG is an immunoglobulin G food sensitivity lab. And what's interesting about this is we started off talking about inflammation and your body just being angry and the fact that stress causes so much inflammation within the body. Well, food also creates a lot of inflammation within the body. So when we think about immunoglobulins, there's immunoglobulin G, A, E, and M. But IgG, immunoglobulin G in particular, is the one that is about food sensitivity. And when we think about how food reacts within our bodies, there's three primary ways. We have food allergies, intolerances, and sensitivities. Allergies are an immediate response. We have an allergic response to peanuts. We have an allergic response to shrimp, etc. Our lips swell, our throat swell. We may need an EpiPen. We have intolerances. We may be intolerant to lactose, dairy, those types of foods. We may bloat, have some gas, etc. Those are intolerances. But sensitivities are kind of like the silent destroyers. We don't feel it. We don't sense it. We don't know that it's wreaking havoc within our body. It's creating this inflammation. Over a period of time, we're sluggish, we're tired, we have aches, we have pains, we have all of these things going on, and not really thinking about the fact that the food that we're eating is a contributing factor. So IgG food sensitivity lab testing, in addition to the bioenergetic screening and the brain mapping, etc., are just some of the services as part of some of the wellness packages that your organization can take advantage of. So with that being said, there's the group counseling and development programs. These are for employees and employers, looking at the leadership, emotional intelligence aspect of it, which is extremely important. Dr. K mentioned a lot of this on just how to emotionally navigate some of the challenges and changes when it comes to the employer-employee or the vision change that happens within an organization. And then from an employee standpoint, eliminating the automatic negative thoughts, the trauma and abuse recoveries, and then even the marriage enrichment and premarital group. Now, it's interesting that that's there because we talked about this being from a holistic standpoint, which means external factors that happen outside of work that bring themselves to work, which family stresses show up in our work productivity, work performance, etc. So could it be that something that happens outside work and it happens in the home is affecting our work performance? Absolutely. Those services and wellness can assist with that. And we touched on that. All right, so again, just more about the organizational seminars and workshops. We talked about the understanding neurodevelopmental challenges, the coping with crisis and loss in the workplace, addiction awareness. There may be a custom topic that an organization may want to touch on, then definitely let us know and we will be happy to just discuss this with you and talk about a custom program for your organization. So,
Dr. Shona, before this is the last thing to round up. But before we get to that, just as we are rounding up, we also want to say this. If you have questions, I should have said that earlier. That if you have questions, please you can indicate by raising up your hands and we will answer your questions. You can also type the questions in the notice in the chat box. If you have questions, you can type it in the chat box. I thank you so much, Priska. You said, wow, this webinar is a great eye-opener. Many organizations here in Nigeria needs to hear things like this. I totally agree with you. Rod says we would be glad to have the recorded version of this. Well, the good thing is we actually have it being recorded on YouTube. And so you can go back because there's so much, we've talked about so many things, Dr. Shona in a nice, quiet voice compared to my louder voice, have touched on so many things that when you go back, almost like a little notepad, a little document that you can use to begin to look at developing your policy. But then you have Dr. Shona available for consultation. If you want somebody to sit with you to help develop a wellness policies, her service, she's available. We have on the chat platform, we have a Google form. Mosun, can you please put on that Google form? We have a Google form that you can click on and indicate what you are interested in. If you want consultation with Dr. Shona, Dr. Shona gives one-on-one. You can also have a health consultation with her. She's a naturopathic doctor and looks at things from a very holistic perspective. I told you that there are many things that do not show up on labs yet because they have not reached that diseased level. But there are some signs that are already there. And it will do well if you're an employer, head of school, head of organization. Don't wait until you drop down. It will do well to book a consultation with Dr. Shona to do a bioenergetic scan, whether you're in Nigeria or in the US, you can have bioenergetic scans anywhere. You can book an appointment with us in Nigeria to do a brain scan, a brain mapping, to check which brain waves is low and which one is high, and why do you have that headache, anger, lack of sleep, tiredness, and how you can train your brain for better performance if you are an executive director. You need to do something before it gets into dementia, it gets into Alzheimer's, it gets into something, it gets into stroke, or something worse than that. And so we have all of that available. So you can click on that form and go ahead and fill up, ask, put in your information. And then Dr. Shona has done something for this seminar and has said that the first 5 people who request for consultation from her gets 30% off our consultation fee. But then you have to make a consultation commitment to do that. And all that information is on the form, to be able to make a consultation commitment. The first 5 people who make a consultation commitment to speak with her will have 30% off their consultation. All that information, if you click on the link to the form, all that information is there on the form. I will answer Priska Odunlade, and then I'll show you, we are almost rounding up. I will show you a video on what brain mapping and brain training looks like. Okay, let's unmute. You can unmute yourself, Priska. Any other person lifting up their hands?
Wow, good evening. In fact, I would say I'm blessed with this webinar. Like in my organization, we don't have anything in place for the staff. I just have to confess. So, but now I work in a school. I'm a school administrator anyway. And now we're on holiday. So meeting the management team will not be there for now. So, like you said, 5 first organizations. That's the line I'm trying to talk on. So everything will have to be by September when schools resume. So I don't know how you're going to handle that for schools.
Well, just reach out to us. I mean, you still go ahead and reach out. I definitely, yes.
I've taken the phone numbers.
Yeah, just take the phone number and click on the form. It's a Google form, and fill the Google form also to indicate, because we are going to reach out to you from that Google form, based on what you are interested in.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we round up? Anybody, please feel free to type your questions on the chat box, or you can lift up your hand. And then, in addition to questions, I would like to have feedback on how this seminar how this short workshop has been. Please, maybe something you've learned. Has it been helpful? Have you learned anything? Is there something you are going away with? I will appreciate if you can also type that in the chat box. While I do a final, it's just a short, let's see, where is the...
I'm going to stop sharing, Dr. K, so you can...
Okay, yes, thank you, yes, I just realized that.
Okay.
This is Mike Cohen. I first took my dad to neurofeedback in 1995. He was struggling with severe agitation. We went to top doctors, nothing worked. Then we found neurofeedback and the effect on him was remarkable. Ever since, I've worked with neurofeedback. So when people ask, what is neurofeedback? They typically want to know how you do it, what it helps, and how it's different than other options. With neurofeedback, anyone can improve their brain. We've trained children, teenagers, and adults from age 2 to 92. For children, it's often used for ADHD, emotional and behavioral issues, learning and developmental delays, and struggles in school. For adults, it's commonly used for anxiety, depression, obsessing, and sleep problems. Neurofeedback measures brain activity, like brain waves, and it helps you make more or less of certain brain patterns. By changing brain activity, or by changing how one area of the brain talks to another, you can improve attention, control of your emotions, and behavior. There's research on how it helps migraines, pain, concussions, addiction, and seizures. But what do all these have in common? They're brain issues. With neurofeedback, your brain changes itself. And when it does, typically any of these issues improve. It's not all about problems. Neurofeedback improves performance by changing the timing of the brain. That can help anyone in performing in school, business, or sports. It helps give you an edge. Neurofeedback is different from brain games like Lumosity or tutoring or therapy. Those focus on changing your skills or behavior or how you think. Neurofeedback is focused on changing the brain. There are parts of your brain that help you pay attention, that help you be calm, that help manage your mood and your emotions, or that help you sleep. You don't realize how much your brain affects your mind. With neurofeedback, you get to see how changing your brain can have a huge impact on your life. How do you do neurofeedback? First, we put sensors on your head. Commonly, we measure your EEG brain activity with a special computerized system. The system gives you feedback, such as playing a movie or hearing a beep. For example, when you make a certain amount of beta brain waves, the movie will play perfectly. But as soon as you're less alert and awake, the movie starts to fade out. You rapidly learn how to keep the movie from fading out by changing the brain activity that's being trained. Your brain has a way of figuring out how to get the movie to play. Once you learn new patterns, and that may take practice, your brain tends to remember it. There's a lot of published research that shows that the brain learns from feedback and that measurable changes in brain activity occur after training. So how do you do exceptions, particularly if there's disease like Alzheimer's or neurological issues? But there are still ways to train your brain. The changes you make with neurofeedback can over time have a profound effect on learning, memory, attention, mood, migraines, and far more.
Wonderful. So that is just a sample. Let me stop sharing this. Let me look for. That is just a sample of some of the services we provide. Let me find the link. Give me a moment. I need to stop sharing this. Awesome, thank you. So that is just a sample of the services, some of the services we provide. And like I said, for HR, we have a wellness assessment that you can run for your organization to check the health of your organization, to learn what your staff, what they are feeling and what they need from you. So normally we always recommend when you want to incorporate a wellness program into your program, and we call it the employee wellness program. When you want to incorporate a wellness program, you start by doing an assessment. Please don't just start picking programs without starting with an assessment. We call it the wellness, the employee wellness assessment, employee, what you call it, welfare pack program assessment. And it's for everybody, even the employer, the employee. And based on this assessment is where you start developing a wellness policy. Based on the result of this assessment, then you can begin to plan, okay, so based on, because you want to develop a policy that, carries everybody along, that people are interested in. You don't just want to go and say, oh, Shell or UBA have this wellness policy. And so we are just going to, it's cheaper for us to put it, to have the same policy. You want to first assess what you have, and then you want to be able to use that result to then develop a policy. You also want to incorporate a lot of training, training your supervisors in mental health, your HR, people that are heading other people. You want to be able to train them in mental health. It is very important. Mental health is so crucial. Unlike physical health, if I have a wound on my leg, you will see the wound. And you are going to say, Pele, sorry, how are you doing? Oh, have you gone to the hospital? If you see me limping. But when it comes to wound in the brain, in the head, you don't see it. And so if you don't know how to assess it, you are going to miss it. And so it's important to train leaders, those that are involved in working with other people, on how to know when something is going on and what to do, where to send them to. You don't have to send them, it's not a psychiatric thing. Sometimes what they need is just some simple affirmation. They need somebody to just pour out their heart to. It's not that they need some drug. And then if you want a non-drug approach to health, and you want to assess as a manager, as a leader, as an executive director, you don't want the drop down and die syndrome. You want to assess what's going, what might, where you are, what's going on. Then you want to book a time out with Dr. Shona. And the 5 people to book a time out with her, with a commitment, of $50, will be able to have 30% off from their total consultation fee. And then the form, the Google form that we have there, has a lot of detail of what the various services are. You have our numbers if you want to reach out, if you're interested in having an assessment done for your organization, if you're interested in having a consultation with Dr. Shona, if you're interested in training your staff. We are available to do that. We are just a phone call away and to answering those your questions. And I want to say that we are working on that same journey with you. I also know what it feels like to set up organization. I have startups. I have projects that I'm running, and I know what it feels like to also try to motivate and work with employees, especially some employees that don't really understand what work looks like. And, so there's just a lot going on that we need help. We can't do it by ourselves. Now, Letitia, you have your hands up. Welcome, Letitia. Letitia is a therapist in the US and also part of the Arukah network. So you're welcome. You have your hands up. Yeah.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Koino. Hello, Dr. Shana. Thank you. This was very informative. And all of the things that you said are so relevant, especially as we're learning that, the mind and the body are so connected, that whether it starts with the mind or with the body, one way or another, they start, the disease or like the imbalance that you see, starts affecting the other part. So I just wanted to see if you could touch a little bit on, people who have multiple roles as caregivers, who are either caregiving as a job or, in the human resources field or human services field, or who are caregivers at home but also have like a very strenuous job. how do you, like, what would be your encouragement to them, or like, what would you recommend for them to start on their wellness journey?
Well, thank you so much, Letitia. Dr. Shona, before I say something, do you want to say something to that?
You can go ahead. I'll let you start and then you back off of you. I have some thoughts on that though.
Oh, okay then. Right. Okay. Well, as I have been a caregiver, and this is funny. When my mother was going through cancer treatment, when we go to the hospital, sometimes they thought I was the patient. And that is because, yes, many times as caregivers, we don't take care of ourselves. And we end up breaking down. You've had so many cases of a wife taking care of the husband while the husband was sick and she dies. And people say, oh, we thought it was the husband that was sick that was going to die. Because the impact, we call it vicarious trauma, where you go through a lot of trauma by taking care of people that are not feeling well. And you also have what we call vicarious trauma sickness by extension. And so it's so important, if you're a caregiver, you are taking care of your aged ones, a sick person, and then you are also you are at work. And that is why we go back also to having, HR and supervisors trained in mental health and being able to see this and understand what is going on, and basically develop expectations based on, that, especially for bigger organizations. For smaller organizations, it becomes really difficult when that person is really the center of a lot of activities, but you have to find a way. I've been there. I'm also there right now, where you have a staff being a caregiver. It's important that the work, situation will experience some adjustment for that. And then the caregiver must learn to become an advocate for himself or herself, and must speak out, must share. You cannot keep quiet because people don't read minds. You must be able to take a seat with your boss or with your supervisor and have a conversation of what is going on and make necessary requests if it's possible. And if you are a very diligent staff, and a staff that an employer does not want to see go, they will sit with you and have a conversation on how to help balance the situation. But please realize that having a caregiver's role is a strenuous role, and affect your work-life balance and affect your productivity in your office.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that, it goes back to one of the things I mentioned early in the webinar is when you're on a flight and there is an emergency situation, the first thing that a caregiver that has a child traveling with them is to put the oxygen mask on them first before they can assist their child. And the reason that that's the instruction is because if they don't do that, then there is no way they can care for the loved one that they're traveling with if they are weak and don't have the oxygen to be able to care for them. So someone that's in a caretaker role, they have to understand that they have to pour into themselves first. They have to understand that their health has to be a focus for themselves, and they have to take care of themselves, understanding that eating properly, getting the right amount of rest, trying to reduce the amount of stress that they're going through is important so that they can support their loved ones or individuals that they're caring for. And to also be vulnerable in that space and not feel like they have to be the superhero or superhuman in that space. They have to know that they can be vulnerable in reaching out to a support system and use resources, and they don't have to have all of the answers for everything. Knowing that there are individuals that can help. There are organizations that can help, whether it's helping them personally or assisting with the load that comes with it, that they need to be able to tap into those kinds of resources as well. But again, that all goes back to this holistic approach with a caregiver and letting them know and understand that pouring into themselves, making sure that they're nourished, taking care of themselves, being vulnerable, reaching out to a support system, and using those resources has to be something that they really take serious, and they really do, so that they don't experience burnout themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I just would like to finally read some things people said. So we have Riverwell, Makida. Hi, Makida. Are you still on? How are you? So glad that it's been a while. I love you. Mwah. It's been a while. It's so good to have you. Yay! Yes, we were in chiropractic school together. We weathered that storm. Oh my goodness. 4.5 years, 5 years of pain, right?
It was a journey.
Yes, and you now have your chiropractic clinic in Atlanta?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I know. And you said here we talked about work-life balance with family, but it's important also to know that as a business owner, Makida, you need that work-life balance.
Yes.
Especially as a solopreneur, running your own company, running your own chiropractic center. It can be just all, just how I put it, really, you're just thinking of how to grow that business and all of that. But, loving yourself as you love your patient and your client is very important. And putting in place care packages for yourself in order to be better positioned to help your patient. So this goes for not just employers, even doctors, so when Letitia talks about caregiver, we are even talking about doctors who work in hospitals. They also are liable to falling down and die, to experiencing a lot of stress because of vicarious trauma. And so thank you. Letitia said this was very informative and needed. Makida says, to this day, I make sure to schedule the family weekends you suggested back in the program. Thank you. Yes, we had those conversations. And I said, even though this program was stressful, you still need to have family weekends with your children. If you don't start it now, you won't be able to do it when you start working. So I'm glad that the conversations we had like 4 years back is still helping you even in your business. Lauren says, thanks to the organizers, it's impactful. And then Ayodele, this is quite informative. I will refer employers to watch on YouTube. Wonderful. So we've come to the end. Every good thing always have an end. We've come to the end of this very insightful workshop, or whatever we want to call it. And I want to ask Dr. Shona, before I say my last word and say bye-bye to everyone, do you have anything else to say to us, Dr. Shona?
Well, the only thing I have to say in conclusion, for one, is thank you all for those that were able to join and be with us in this very important webinar, understanding that wellness is definitely something that shouldn't be taken lightly, getting away from the burnout, fight or flight mentality, and understanding that your personal health is your personal journey, and really focusing on it individually as an organization, and being able to create a culture for your company, whether you're a solopreneur or a large corporation, to make wellness a part of that, making sure that that's part of your HR policy is important, and to really thank you for your time and attention to be with us. And we look forward to speaking with you with consultations and one-on-ones to see how we can better support your organization in developing this healthy culture where one individual at a time, one corporation at a time, we create these healthier communities at one at a time. And that's the goal. That is the goal. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Shauna.
You're welcome. In my small little quiet voice. I'm going to get a thunderous voice like you one day. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, but it's cute. I like it. One day I wish I will be able to speak. Hello, I'll be able to speak like that. Well,
Yeah.
that would be in another life. Yeah, so we just want to say thank you. Remember, well, this is Arukah International Center. A lot of our services are online, so it doesn't matter where you are from. Dr. Shauna is in the US, in Atlanta. I'm in Nigeria. We have services. Letitia is in the US, so you can you can consult with us anywhere. Arukah International, has 3 arms. We have the wellness arm, that partners with Dr. Shauna. We have the therapy counseling arm that partners with Letitia, and then that Letitia works with, and then we have the BrainGym Center, where I oversee, where we do the neurofeedback, the biofeedback. We also have the training arm that we help psychoeducation. We are all involved in the training arm. We all do that, work with you. And so remember action point. Don't leave without your action point. Remember your action point 1. You want to do an assessment for your organization to understand what are your wellness needs for yourself and for your staff. If you are a soul, and if you are a solopreneur, as Dr. Shauna puts it, and you are feeling so stressed up and all of that, and you just need support, reach out, please. You can you can book an appointment to see Dr. Shauna. You have the link. Make sure that you fill the form. And then if you need to come in for a brain mapping, brain training, we have a center in Nigeria. And if you're in the US, we can direct you to where you get that done. You want, someone to talk to, you need a therapist, we can also help you with that. You also want training on any of those things we've talked about. We have various certification training in mental health, training in wellness, training in, we have, from the therapy center, we can run groups, different kind of groups for your organization. So whatever is that need to help, our goal, Arukah stands for healing and restoration. Our goal is that you become the best of yourself. You enjoy running your organization, showing up, because the reason you are running this organization is because you want to impact the world. You want to bring about change in people. You want to help lives be better. You don't want to do that killing yourself. You want to enjoy doing that. You want to give and receive life. And so our goal is to journey with you, help you in achieving this, your vision, and having a good time doing it. So God bless you, and look forward to, we are going to be having so many different talks. Arukah International Center, look out for us and look out for our next seminar. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Take care, everyone.